The rumors have turned out to be true, and Georgia offensive coordinator Todd Monken was looking for an NFL job after the Georgia Bulldogs completed a 15-0 national title season. And he found that NFL job as the Baltimore Ravens' new offensive coordinator after they fired Greg Roman. ESPN's Jamison Hensley reports the Baltimore Ravens hired Georgia offensive coordinator Todd Monken as their new OC on Tuesday. This was reported about an hour or two before noon Eastern Time today, an addition that could upgrade the team's struggling passing attack and get Lamar Jackson back on track. Georgia immediately promoted analyst Mike Bobo to be the offensive coordinator. Mike Bobo played at Georgia in college. He was a teammate of Kirby Smart's, and he helped recruit and coach Matthew Stafford and Aaron Murray, working with Mark Richt at Georgia from 2001 to 2014. He was the head coach of Colorado State from 2015 to 2019. After he was fired, he returned to his OC role at South Carolina. Then after Will Muschamp, messed the bed, he then went to Auburn. After Brian Harsin canned his entire staff after his initial 2021 season, he returned to Georgia, where now, after spending a year as an analyst, he is their offensive coordinator. Here's the thing, and here's my take on this. I think that this very well might be, actually, I'm not going to go easy. I'm just going to say it. I think this is Georgia's biggest loss after 2022. It's not Stetson Bennett. It's not Jalen Carter. It's not Keely Ringo and Christopher Smith. It's not any of that. It's Todd Monken. This is Georgia's biggest loss by a mile. It is. Georgia's defense, regardless who's coaching it, whether it's Lanning, Schumann, Mel Tucker, whether it's Will Muschamp, who's the co-DC and defensive backs coach and was the special teams coordinator in 2021, no matter who it is, it's going to be Kirby's system. Regardless of who the coordinator is, we have now seen over the years Georgia's defense consistently reside in the top 10, if not the top 5. And the rare outliers, like 2020's defense, where, give you a hint, every defense in 2020 had a down year, they're still inside the top 20, inside the top 25, and they're still littered with NFL players and 5 stars. The offense is where it's different, because Kirby Smart's an offensive-minded guy. He kind of needs someone who's independent, strong-minded, but adaptable to be the offensive coordinator. James Coley, Jim Chaney, not that good. Disasters. And especially when you look at Coley, who led an offense in 2019 that had NFL potential, but was 50th in the nation points per game, only scoring 30.8. It was Fromm's worst year by a mile. A guy who had an Alabama offer out of high school, was a 4 or 5-star recruit, and had NFL-like seasons in 2017 and 18, where the offense was in the top 25 in 2018 and in 2017. It regressed, plain and simple. That is not Kirby Smart's side of the football. That side of the football for Georgia is not independent of coordinators, like the defense. You could probably put Todd Grantham as Georgia's DC, and they would have a top 10 defense that would automatically reload up front, at linebacker, and at secondary. Mykel Williams, Nazir Stackhouse, Bear Alexander, that's your projected D-line. At linebacker, with that whole rotation, Chaz Chambliss, Jamon Demas-Johnson, Smail Mondon Jr., Marvin Jones Jr., that's your loaded linebacker room, projected starters. Kamari Lassiter, David Daniel Sisavana, Malachi Starks, Dalen Everett, Jevon Bullard. That's your projected secondary starters in rotation. That defense, a lot of those guys are new names, new starters. It will not matter. They will be great. That defense will reside in the top 5. That I am confident in. The offense loses Kenny McIntosh, Stetson Bennett, Darnell Washington, Warren McClendon, Warren Erickson, Broderick Jones, Kyrus Jackson. They also lose Adonai Mitchell to Texas and some backup tight ends to the portal. Their projected starters are Carson Beck at quarterback, Kendall Milton and Dejon Edwards at running back. Branson Robinson will get touches too. Brock Bowers and Oscar Delp at tight end. Ernest Green III, Tate Ratledge, Cedric Van Pran, who's a returning center, Xavier Truss, and Amarius Mims, that's your offensive line. Dominic Lovett, Ladd McConkey, and Ra Thomas, Marcus Rosemary, Jack Saint, and Arian Smith. That's going to be your 5 wide receivers that you'll see often. But I think the offense will take a hit from this departure. A, you have a lot of departing starters if you're a Georgia fan or if you're Kirby Smart. And B, Todd Monken, this cannot be overstated, was possibly the best offensive coordinator in the country, or one of the best. Elite offensive mind. He took an offense that, again, was the running joke of a program. When you have the number 1 scoring defense, but the 50th scoring offense, you're like a better edition of Iowa. That's what Georgia was in 2019. They were Iowa or late Paul Chryst, Wisconsin, with 5 stars and 4 stars instead of 3 stars. The 5 stars on offense and the 4 stars on offense, they took them and their development made those players worse. Jake Fromm regressed year after year. They did not produce the same wide receivers, tight ends, or offensive linemen they're currently producing now. Their play calling and execution looks high school level compared to what Todd Monken brought them. And Mike Bobo, great offensive coordinator, good offensive coordinator. I think in year 1 you're not going to see much of a drop-off, if anything. But here's what I'm getting to. Todd Monken is a great offensive coordinator, an elite one. He doesn't panic. He does what he does. He knows what works. He's consistent. He's not reactive. He's wise. Mike Bobo, look, several years as an OC, several years as a quarterback coach. I personally admit it's not like I've studied him for several hours per week, but I don't think he's the same level that Todd Monken is. And I don't think you'll see that in Georgia's games against UT Martin, Ball State, South Carolina, UAB, Auburn, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Florida, Missouri. I mean, you look at Georgia's schedule, they have 11 wins built in. They have 11 or 12 wins built into their schedule, including the fact that, listen, no one's beating them in the SEC East. No one. They're probably the only team in the country who is certainly a lock to win their division. Fact. And Alabama's going to have a down year. They're like bottom 10 in returning production, including non-Power 5 teams. LSU, anyone else in the SEC West is not beating Georgia. Tennessee, they host Georgia. Their offense, I think, still can play advantage to Georgia's secondary, which is the weaker part of the defense. But I don't think Tennessee has the depth to beat Alabama and beat Georgia, and they probably lose enough to where they will lose a third game. So Georgia, still going to win 11 games, still going to win 10 games. Well, no, 11, 12, probably 13. They're still in line for a three-peat. But what happens when they go to the playoff? What happens if you took Todd Monken out and inserted Mike Bobo in the Ohio State game? where there were certainly moments where panic could have ensued on offense after Stetson Bennett threw a pick. What happens when they face Alabama, probably in the SEC championship game? What happens if they play in the national title game? What happens if, like the Missouri game happens last year? What happens when adversity hits Georgia and hits the offense? And that's where you find out the great offensive coordinators, the elite offensive coordinators, and just the ones who are good. So Mike Bobo, he's had success at Georgia before, but I think because of the level Todd Monken is at, combining that with the departing starters on Georgia's offense, I think this hiring by the Ravens is very helpful to teams like Michigan, Ohio State, USC, even in-conference foe Alabama. It helps everyone who's trying to win the national title in 2023 unless your name is Georgia. Because listen, the defense is going to reload. It's not what I'm talking about here. I'm not even saying this hire means, Georgia is unable to three-peat. Are you kidding me? They have top 2 talent. They might have currently the best head coach. And I said currently, including past resume, no one's catching up to Nick Saban anytime soon. But in the here and the now, Kirby Smart is 29-1 in the past 2 seasons. The offense has been consistently top 10. The defense has been consistently top 5. It's just a thought that I'm putting out there. This loss is going to be bigger than people realize. For Alabama fans, to make a comparison, it's going to be like going from Jim McElwain to Doug Nussmeier. You may not see it early, but when it gets to the big games, when you play a team like Ohio State, who can what they did to that defense, not even 2019 LSU did to Georgia's defense. That when that happens, that's where you're going to see it, is when the offense goes from being able to engage in shootouts and make monumental comebacks to probably falling short or a little bit flat. And it's not hating on Mike Bobo or the hire. What it is just saying what Todd Monken has done in his career is elite, and he's an outlier. So this is a huge loss. But Georgia's still very much an elite team, still a national title contender, still has a great argument to be the number 1 team in the country and even three-peat in 2023. Those are just my thoughts on that. I think it'll have a ripple effect along all of college football, I think. Just Todd Monken, great offensive mind, great offensive coordinator. We'll see what Mike Bobo can do. Again, he recruited and developed Matthew Stafford, Aaron Murray, recruited Gunnar Stockton to commit to South Carolina before that whole mess happened, and now Gunnar Stockton is reunited with Mike Bobo at Georgia and could contend for the starting job. It'll be Carson Beck, Brock Vandegrift, Gunnar Stockton. It'll be those 3 competing for that starting QB job. Thank you guys for watching and listening to my thoughts. Please like this video, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, click the notification bell. If you're listening on Spotify, please follow the channel. Do you agree with me? Do you think I'm a lunatic? Just comment your thoughts down below. Again, I think Georgia's offense is going to be good, great. I don't think there's going to be any major fall off of any kind. I just think, given the nature that Georgia's offense is more independent of Kirby Smart, it's going to be less constant than the defense is. A coordinator change there is big, and it should be paid attention to. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you around. Bye.